Greetings, fellow Supernatural fans. We're look at Supernatural Season 6 now continues on with Weekend at Bobby's. 1 year ago, as the apocalypse ends, Bobby's at home preparing a ritual to summon Crowley. Crowley arrives to know that Sam made the ultimate sacrifice and they've saved the world. Bobby asks for his soul back, per their deal, but Crowley tells him that, per the contract, he only has to make best efforts to return the soul, but he can't. He says that Bobby has 10 years until he's summoned, and Bobby reveals that he's trapped him in a hidden devil's trap. However, Crowley has brought his hellhound and will have it kill Bobby if he doesn't release him. Bobby lets Crowley go, but warns that it isn't over. In the present, in Kenosha, Wisconsin, Dean and Sam examine a body at a playground with its chest cracked open and find a claw. They call Bobby, who eventually answers. They explain there have been 6 bodies recently and ask him to identify it. Bobby says that he's busy but eventually agrees to do the research. When he doesn't have any luck with his own books, he drives in town and breaks in the library and steals the book he needs. His car won't start, but eventually gets home and confirms that they're hunting a lamia, a monster rarely seen out of Greece. Bobby calls Dean with the information and tells them that they can kill it with a blessed silver knife. Dean immediately hangs up, and Bobby then goes downstairs where he has a demon captive in a trap. He demands to know Crowley's real name, but the demon taunts him about when Bobby had to kill his wife. He responds by bringing out a bag with something belonging to her and sets it on fire. The demon starts to burn, and she warns Crowley is the king of hell and she can't go against him. The doorbell rings and Bobby goes upstairs. It's his new neighbor, Marcy Ward, who was there with Peach Cobbler. She hears the demon yelling, and Bobby says that he's watching a horror movie. Marcy ends up inviting him over to watch horror movies and asks him to help her fix her wood chipper if he has a chance. Once Marcy leaves, Bobby goes downstairs and returns to torturing the demon for Crowley's name. The demon finally gives in and tells her that it's Fergus McLeod. She demands that Bobby release her, but he tortures the contents, killing her. Later, Bobby spends his day taking calls for hunters. Rufus shows up to ask if he's bearing a body, and explains that he brought it there because the law is after him. It's an okami, a Japanese monster, and Bobby knows that Sam and Dean are after a Greek Yama, or Lamia, or Yama, or however it's pronounced. When it's to bury the body, he discusses Crowley. Bobby says off to Scotland where Crowley lived and died as a human. Rufus offers to make a few calls with his contacts and ignores Bobby's objections. Back inside, Bobby gets a call from Dean, who needs help because they're planning to get a priest to bless their silver knife, as worked since the Yama killed the local priest. An FBI agent, Adams, opens the door along with Sheriff Mills. Bobby asks him to wait while he talks to his mom and talks Dean through preparing a substance to destroy the Yama. They ask if Bobby's seen Rufus, and Bobby denies it. Adam wants to take a look around, and Bobby asks for a warrant. Mills asks Adams to go outside, and Bobby admits he has several bodies buried around the house. Mills knows all about it, and Bobby says he just buried one outside. The cursed check outside and discover that Adams went exploring on his own. They go outside and find that he's already located the Okami's grave. It's dug out, however, and Bobby claims that it's a septic tank explosion. The agents step back. That night, Bobby calls Rufus and realizes that Rufus didn't kill it properly. Rufus tells Bobby that if he's on single white females, Bobby realizes who he'll be going after next. Marcy is preparing for the night when Bobby bursts with a shotgun. He goes to the bedroom and searches for the Okami, but doesn't find anything. The Okami leaps from the ceiling and throws Bobby out the window, and then goes out after him. Sorry. He finally manages to turn the wood chipper and they struggle along the edge of it. Marcy says Bobby gets the upper hand and shows the Okami into the chipper. He turns to Marcy, who's covered in blood, and she admits she said the chipper was broke to get him over here. Bobby comes over. Bobby offers to come over for dinner, but she tells him it's not a good idea. The next day, Bobby tells Rufus about what happened, and Rufus thanks him for bailing him out. He tells Bobby that he's confirmed that Crowley was Fergus Roger McLeod, born in Canis Bay, Scotland in 1661. He had a son, Gavin, who came to the U.S. as captain of a training ship that sank. Divers found his ring and donated it to the Naval Museum in Andover. Bobby eventually asks him for help getting it. Rufus agrees and figures that Bobby plans to exchange the ghost of Gavin for his soul. That night, Bobby gets a call from Dean. Dean assures him that they killed the Yama, but tells him that Sam is different. Before Bobby can respond, he gets on the call. Bobby says it's more important that Sam takes the call. It's Rufus, who has the ring but is being pursued by the police. Rufus swallows the ring against Bobby's advice where the police pull him over. Bobby then gets back to Dean, who insists that Bobby is the only person he can talk to. When he tells Dean that isn't a good time, Dean says that Bobby's being selfish. Bobby has Dean bring Sam in, and then tells him on speakerphone that they are the whiniest SOBs he's ever met, and they have issues of his own. They tell him that they're there for him. The next day, Bobby meets Sheriff Mills and asks her to get Rufus extradited for murder. She warns him that it will take out every favor she's got, and that Rufus will still be in jail for murder. Bobby says he'll handle it, and reminds her that he's done a lot for the town. He admits he's not good at asking for help, and Mills tells him that she can't. That night, Bobby's at home when Mills shows up with Rufus and tells him that he's got 1 hour to let Rufus escape. Once she leaves, Rufus produces the ring from his pocket, and Bobby goes to boil some water. Bobby puts a ritual circle around Gavin's ring and summons a spirit, and tells him that they're going to have a chat. Later, Bobby summons Crowley, who appears within a devil's trap. Crowley isn't impressed, and admits that rulership of hell isn't all it's cracked up to be. The demons don't want a better way, and Crowley admits that Lucifer's plan to destroy the demons might have been a good idea. And then tells Bobby he won't be getting his soul back, and Bobby summons Gavin. Crowley briefly fakes grief, and then tells Bobby that he hates Gavin, and Bobby is welcome to torture him. In response, Bobby explains that he used the ghost to get dirt on Crowley, and that Gavin was glad to oblige. Gavin says they told Bobby everything and disappears, and Bobby says that he knows where Crowley's human corpse is buried, and then tosses Crowley's cell phone. Dean's on the other end, and tells him he and Sam are in Scotland at the grave where Crowley's body is buried. They dug up his bones and are ready to burn them if Crowley doesn't return Bobby's soul, and the continued use of his legs. Crowley has no choice but to agree, and then teleports to Scotland to collect his bones. Dean considers burning them anyway, but Sam intervenes. Crowley tells him to get bent and leaves with his bones. As Dean and Sam drive back, Bobby calls and thanks him for his help. He apologizes for earlier, and they admit that he was right. Bobby cuts off before things get too sentimental, and tries to eat his peach cobbler. The phone rings, and Bobby goes back to work. Aww. So anyway, let's take a look at some continuity surrounding this episode. Dean's fear of flying is referenced in this episode, when it's mentioned by Sam that Dean was petrified the whole 9-hour flight. Rufus and Bobby discuss how the two monsters of the episode, Lamia and Okami, are outside their traditional ranges, with Rufus positing that something's up. This may be a clue to the rising of Eve and her subsequent monster rampage. Crowley still had Bobby's soul from 2 minutes to midnight until he's forced to relinquish it. Crowley's now the ruler of Hell. It will be revealed and stuck in the middle with you that the Prince of Hell, Ramiel, gave him the titles Ramiel didn't want it. Rufus was last seen, and good God, y'all. Now let's take a look at some trivia from this episode. This is the first Supernatural episode to be directed by a main cast member, and it is Jensen Ackles' directorial debut. This episode is Bobby-centric. This is the first mention of Garth Fitzgerald IV in the series. He will later appear in Season 7, Time for a Wedding, and become a recurring guest star. The episode's title is a play on the movie title Weekend at Bernie's. Dean and Sam call Bobby seeking advice on how to kill Lamia. Later, when Bobby's neighbor Marcy comes to his door to invite him to dinner at her house, she suggests that since they both like horror movies, they could watch the movie Drag Me to Hell together. In that movie, the main character is being pursued by a Lamia. The CW's official summary for this episode does not cite Jim Beaver as a guest star. This episode reveals Crowley's true name to be Fergus MacLeod and to have son Gavin MacLeod, who died in 1723 when the ship The Star sank off the coast of America. Gavin subsequently appears through Time Travel in King of the Damned and Family Feud. This episode introduces the Burning Bones method of killing a demon. Castle uses to fake Crowley's death in Cage Teed, and Alice kills Barthelmess using it in Scorpion and the Frog. This is the second time the crowd uses the nickname Moose referring to Sam. The first time was in The Devil You Know. And now finally, let's take a look at a couple errors. When Rufus shows up with the Okami of Bobby's, Bobby says, "So, what is it? Vamp? Shifter? What?" However, vampires can only be killed by beheading, and the Okami's head was clearly attached to its body. When Bobby goes to do research, he's seen entering the Sioux Falls University Library. There's no Sioux Falls University. Sioux Falls, South Dakota has 2 colleges. The University of Sioux Falls and Augustana University. So I think this episode is pretty interesting, and I like the fact that we get an episode featuring other characters besides Sam and Dean. So yeah. So overall, I give Weekend at Bobby's 4 Impalas out of 5. When I tune in as we do the next episode, live free or try hard. So until then, carry on, my wayward sons and daughters.